Joe and yeah, John.
Okay. John, when you have something like Stay Safe, it's an operation, but what exactly does that mean?
It means us working with partners to engage with young people, to look at activities that are or aren't out there. There's a fine line between demonising young people around antisocial behaviour and also working closely with young people, realising that without sounding too corny, they are the future and we need to invest more with working with young people.
Do you think the relationships, I mean, Tilbury has that traditional word, doesn't it, of gathers, you know, for the local police. Do you think the relationships improve with the police and young people?
I'm brand new to Tilbury, however, I think the young people and policing relationship has improved massively over the last few years. Working with young people in different forums, as well as having Safer Schools partnership officers in key schools, has helped develop this relationship. I did a 2.5-year secondment to the Youth Justice Board, and I'm very keen to roll out Safe Schools partnerships across the country, and we've seen some great success through this. We've still got a long way to go, and we need to listen and engage more with young people.
So you coming to Tilbury, this must be a key part, I guess, of your career. What are your ambitions while you're here?
I've wanted to come to Tilbury for quite some time. My ambitions whilst I'm here are better offender management, so the core offenders to be worked with more closely with police, working with probation, the prison service, youth offending teams, and working intelligently around the management of offenders, so we've got a grip and control of them. The way, the vision for me is fewer offending, fewer victims, and that's got to be the reason why we're here, to work for the public, but to reduce crime, to reduce the amount of victims and make the streets safer.
But it does seem to me, and certainly last year, the hallmark of Paul Moore's ethos, so to speak, is, yes, community involvement, engagement with the public, but if there's an incident, you know, we are the police and we are about maintaining public tranquility. Is that what you're about as well?
The whole point, and going back to the days of Mr. Peel, maintaining public tranquility, as you put it, is absolutely critical. It's our #1 reason for being here. Part of that is to effectively tackle those who cause the most harm in the community. By doing that, we'll reduce crime and we'll raise public confidence.
Naturally, some people might, you know, there's career structures to anybody inspectors and chief inspectors, and some people would like you to stay around for 20 years, but that's just not possible. But is it heartening that if you go to reception, you know, and I certainly look up on the names, and there's a lot of regular names I still see there after 4 or 5 years, you know, that must be a good part of keeping your imprint in society here.
Yes, it certainly is. I'm very lucky that I've got a new, to say, fleet, a new team of sergeants who are quite new to Tilbury, a lot of them, but I know them from previous working, and on paper and from experience I've got probably the best sergeants within the division. So I'm very pleased and very proud to have those working for me as part of the team. We've got some work to do together, so we've got a shared vision so we can achieve what the public of Tilbury and surrounding areas, we can focus on Tilbury, but we're just as equal with Corringham, Chadwell and all the other surrounding areas.
Because it's a big area you've got, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And there are different challenges from Tilbury and Corringham and Chadwell. They're different challenges.
Yes, they certainly are, and within Tilbury we also have some quite iconic sites such as the power station, the docks, even though they're covered by dock police, and of course the oil refineries beyond Corringham. So there are challenges from perhaps political, location-wise, as well as other issues within the community.
How do you get your message? For example, we've got a fantastic brand new school just up the road. I'm going there in the next job. How do you get your message across to the students there?
I've been here for 2 weeks. Looking at my team so far, I've seen that I've got one schools officer in the largest of the schools, as in the academy, and I want to start speaking to my neighbourhood officers, saying how many times a week do you go into these schools, how many times a week do you engage with young people, and what relationships do you have. So I'm still learning about what my officers, their full extent of their work, but I certainly have plans and ambition, and I want to hold to account, working within schools, both in the holidays and out of holidays, having a very good rapport with
the Emergency Inspectorate recently in a report said we've got to stop seeing maybe we should start seeing antisocial behaviour as back to being crime. Would you agree with that?
I think the recent cases we've had where vulnerable people have been targeted by antisocial behaviour, and in 2 cases that spring to mind, one in Leicestershire where people have died through continued harassment. Yes, we do need to monitor that as a crime, repeat victims of crime. We need to start boxing a lot more intelligently around how we work for our victims, especially those vulnerable and repeat. So if you're a vulnerable victim or a victim of antisocial behaviour, you're in just as much harm, difficulty and pain perhaps as somebody who's been burgled. So going back to your question, I think there needs to be more an equal measure. However, it's very easy to demonise young people, and just because somebody wears a hooded top and isn't on a playing field playing cricket but happens to be standing on the edge of the street talking to his friends, probably decent kids, decent families, the perception can be that they're up to no good. Some cases they are up to no good, and that needs to be positively dealt with by us, especially in what we call hotspot areas or repeat victims. But in general, I'm mindful there's a very fine line between perception and actual offences.
Just want to finally go back to something you slipped in earlier about working with the Youth Justice Board. Can you just tell me a little bit about that experience?
I was seconded there. It was incredibly good for a personal perspective, but it also raised my knowledge on workings and what measures are in place for working with young people. And I found it very interesting that the targets set for the Youth Justice Board were to reduce the amount of people going into being first-time entrants into the youth justice system, and yet policing at the time seemed to be very much offences brought to justice. So there was a real conflict, and that grated with me at the time, but things have changed massively from then. I've learned an awful lot, and it's been one of the best parts of my career, but I'm predicting that my time